seats there.
Yeah.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve the minutes of January 23rd, 2020. Tammy, and second by Phoebe. Any discussion, errors, omissions? If none, all those in favor? Don't have our little card.
Oh.
Yeah, we can do this.
Hey, look. Okay, everybody but Lena, I believe.
And Mike,
Taylor and who? Mike.
opposed, not voting? And under communications, we have resignation of Tina Bollier, where is everybody? And Ashley Smith, and retirement of Judy Richard. We have a motion there. Judy?
Being applied with regret.
We have a motion with regret to accept the resignations of the two and the retirement notice of the one, and a second. Lynn, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. No, excuse me.
Dale. Did you have, no? Here.
Opposed? Not voting. And we're going to now skip down to policy. The second and final reading of policy BID, board member compensation and expenses. Hopefully everyone got that to have a look at. The only change from the other night is under legal references, the strike of the one that we had, which really doesn't pertain, and the addition of the new one. I'd entertain a motion to accept that. Joel, second. Lena, any further discussion on that one?
Hold up. Who made the motion?
Joel, second
Second.
by Lena. And any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? That's unanimous. And under new business, budget overview, and we're going to start with school administration, and we're going to start with Greg. We don't want you to get bad habits from others.
Yeah, you want to do that.
You want the microphone on? All right. So you'd like for me to go through just the administration lines, is that correct? Yes? Okay. I passed out presentation information as I walked in, so hopefully you have that with you. As far as the admin line, there are two that I would mention. The first is that I'm cheaper than Scott, so there's a little built-in savings there. And the second is that the general supplies for admin are up about $3,000 related to a couple of what I consider one-time purchases. We are in desperate need of having high-quality two-way radios in our school for instant communication, and those good ones are pretty pricey. And also looking for some additional surveillance camera locations in the building, and depending on the price, replacement of some lower resolution cameras. Just those two items. All set? Good.
Any
Questions? Yes.
Are we applying for a grant for those cameras as well?
I did not put any grant money in for that. I wanted to make sure that we had it available. If there's a grant that might cover that, then we wouldn't need to use it.
I think Ken's going to approve the grant for that as well, correct?
I know there's some safety grants out there that we're going to be putting in for, whether or not, if we get that and it picks up those cameras,
I just want to make, yeah, I want to make sure that it's covered. Other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Andrew?
Oh, yeah.
You were talking about the radios being pricey, you
Yeah.
said? Because we just got new radios at the ski mountain in Farmington for less than $100 a unit, and they got a half-mile range.
Sure. I mean, most of the units that I looked at were in the $300 or $400 range, and I'd like to get 3. So we have one in the office, one on me, and one on Craig Collins during the day. And I'd be looking to make sure that we got high quality, and if we can get something that's cheaper, that still works well, then I can do that.
Any other questions? Thank you again.
Okay, thank you again.
Pat?
No, you son of
Well, I wasn't as good as Greg because I didn't hand these out beforehand.
Next,
Go ahead.
But to clear up, the 504 lines we're seeing, those were separate in the last year budget.
That's right.
Okay.
Remember, it wasn't in last year's budget.
Okay.
At the beginning of this past school year, we added that position in, that's 3/5 position, 504, 504 position. So it wasn't actually in the budget. When we did this year, we felt it showed the best representation by putting a quarter of that 3/5 in every one of the buildings.
Okay, I mean, everything goes up because that position is new and it's being split.
So the only 2 things I had in administration.
So what's the total for that? I mean, it looked like the salary was, the proportion of the salary and benefits was out of whack a little bit. So what's the total for the salary and the?
Or will she explain that?
Actually, Tina will come up when Tina's turn to see if she'll.
Because it's in every one.
Thank you.
Am I good now?
Oh, we have another question. Yes.
just, would you make sure they're using the microphones, because it's really muffled over here? Please and thank you.
We'll try. So the 2 line items I had to change, like Greg, I am much cheaper than Chris. You guys are getting a bargain deal here. So in administration, the salary and the benefits, other than that, everything else is under $1,000.
Any questions for Pat?
And some of you might have noticed, we put both in the primary school and the elementary school, the additional amount that we call the SRO this year. Remember, we have to pay 75% of $80,000 this year. Last year it was 50% of $100,000. We paid the $100,000 that first year to get things started, equipment and so forth. The deal was that it's now $80,000, but in that second year we're supposed to pay 75%. We're also surprised that the SRO has spent quite a bit of time at both the elementary school and primary school dealing with parental issues. So we felt it was good to put that extra 10,000 and split it between those 2 buildings. That's why it's there. And it's still 25,000 in middle school and 25,000 in the high school for the SRO.
Any questions for Pat? Thank you. And Kevin?
Good evening. So you should have a handout there with the primary at the top. There are 3 pages, and we'll go over number 1, number 2 on that. Professional courses, you might recall last year I had budgeted some for my own recertification, and that's not needed this year. So pretty substantial drop, it's just shy of $4,000. And then on the general supplies, we're increased about $1,102.80. Out of that, the vast majority is both copy paper, white copy paper, and the multicolor copy paper that we use for all the different things that folks sign up for and do raises. Sometimes it's a class project and whatnot, other times it's just various forms that we use to send stuff to the main office. So of that total number, $7,387.88 is paper. So the rest is your typical kind of office supplies and whatnot. We do have in that line the piece where we, with Veterans Day, Grandparents' Day, and so forth, other activities that we do, there's a small amount of money that goes in there to help to offset that. And those are the only two as far as the office.
Any questions for Kevin? Phoebe?
Um,
Nice and loud.
okay, thank you. All right, my memory is failing me at the moment. I didn't know if you were here at the last school board meeting? Yes? Okay, I thought so, and I didn't want to automatically assume.
That's okay.
Okay, so, at our last school board meeting, we had a wonderful presentation by the teachers talking about how they would like to be able to have some padding so that they could have additional training and things like that to expand.
Okay.
I noticed that this budget is decreasing because, of course, the courses aren't going to be re-upped from last year. Would it be feasible to actually move the decreases and actually put that towards teacher training?
Phoebe, that's going to be covered when he goes over the regular
Oh, okay.
travel budget, okay? So
Okay,
you
cool.
can ask that question.
And also,
I wasn't sure if the decrease was moving.
I can also address that there's other places in the budget that you will see when, especially when Chris Hollingsworth does his presentation, that we have professional development there. This is for actual college courses underneath that line. You will see that we have actually increased what we're going to spend this year on professional development. That means training for the teachers.
I guess my question is the amount that we're seeing decrease here, is that being reallocated there?
More than, yeah, more than.
More than actually, yeah.
Okay, cool.
If we just, oh, this month, you can do that.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead. And just for the record, I remembered to stop here this year. The last 2 years, I marched straight through, and then Mike said, "Kevin, cut it out." Thank you.
Oh. Question, go ahead.
You kind of explained the general supplies, but you're at $10,000 and everybody else is like at $7,500. Are you just purchasing that much more paper, or?
We do, I mean, the big chunk is at $7,400, and that's the same amount of cases. It's $29.19 per case, and we don't see a big difference as far as a white paper or a color paper, but that's the big chunk for sure right there. The rest of the stuff is like, even simply the Nikki folders, every student gets a folder, they go home, and that works out well at the stage, but it just simply adds up, and nothing went down in expense. So it's certainly something we can look at if we feel the need to remove some of that.
It just seemed out of whack compared to the rest of them. You know, even the primary schools are only at 75, or the elementary school only at 7,500.
Yeah. I mean, just in the simple logistics of it, right now we're at 403 students this morning for the last meeting. We do seem to kind of, last year we ended up at 452. We kind of expect a certain influx of students and so forth, but just keeping those things on hand that we do use up. That's about it for now.
Any other questions for Kevin? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I have for the Spruce Mt High School administration, it'll be on page 5, really 4 and 5. 5 is where the numbers end. Looking at my budget on that area, there's really only one area that you're going to say, wow, where did that come from? It is the $25,000 above, which is line, it says continuing services and resources, services resource officer and day one. So day one is a program that we are looking at for next year. It's a social worker / drug counselor person that we're looking to get in here. It's $25,000, and day one would pay for the other part of that. It's a great opportunity for our school and for our kids, and that's where we're putting that extra in there. The rest of the Spruce Mt High School administration budget is, going down a little bit. If you take a look, it's, there's some areas that we did not need to spend, and that's where we left it.
The day one program. How long are they gonna help out with that cost?
It's a contract that we would sign.
It's contracted service for a year, and it's supposed to be 3 days a week if they can find somebody to come in to do that. And then if we're happy with it and they're happy with it, there'd be another, next year there'd be another contracted service that would come up.
The other good thing about Day One is that they also have residential opportunities for students, and some of the family counseling that goes along with that. It's pretty substantial.
Any other questions for TJ?
Okay.
I think it just
Needs to be explained because I'm not following up. Your assistant principal AD, where was that prior?
When we added in the 504 coordinator in all the different buildings, it had to come in under 041. When Crystal got to the high school, we put it in under 041. That's what the assistant principal's number is. So we actually had to now change the assistant principal's number to the 042. So it looks like there wasn't an assistant principal before AD, but now there is. But if you look at the line above, it's dropped $63,000. That's the difference between what the assistant principal AD was making and what the 504 coordinator was looking at.
Okay, thanks, just trying to follow.
We were confused when we first started, so.
Anything else for TJ? Thank you.
Okay.
And system administration. Joe?
This one is a pleasure to go over. We're down $73,833.82 in that area. The one place that we had to go up was school board liability insurance. That's actually a 15% increase to what the actual amount that was paid this past year. We under budgeted last year by quite a bit. Actually, we under budgeted last year by about $7,000 or $8,000. So what we're hearing from them already is that they're going to go up between 14 to 16% for next year of what we've actually paid. So we added in 15% on top of what we actually paid this year. So that's why it's an increase of $10,538. Seeing we're only paying for one superintendent, we have decreased $58,400. And the same for the next one, since we're only paying for benefits for one superintendent, we decreased $23,053.85.
Any questions? And next on the list, Kevin. Back up.
Hello again. So again, looking at that budget presentation form, we'll look at start at number 3. Instructional supplies is quite a long description of the things that fall under that category. Two that kind of jump right out as far as something new. We did add the RTI intervention teacher this year, which has been just heaven sent, so thank you very much. And really just cooling up that position adds a little bit to the budget that we hadn't had before. We also have, we do, in case you didn't know, it's Title I Math and Literacy that we have, does do the regular supplies through us, so that adds in there. And also general special ed supplies fall under that line also. Sometimes you might think that would fall under perhaps a different category, but those are in there. Art in particular, as far as our Unified Arts program, art, most of what they use is expendable. And that, so every year it isn't that we purchased the textbook series and we hang on to it for many years. They're using art and supplies and whatnot, and they're used up and gone. So that number overall on the supply line is generally pretty high because there's an awful lot of things going on in there, and it adds up. 2 new items: the die cutter machine that we use routinely has now finally worn out. the actual, the little pieces that you put in to form your letters and whatnot, or an apple or whatnot, those are still fine. It's the machine itself that's no longer, the tolerances are such that it just doesn't do the job any longer. And we're looking at a paper cutting, the typical paper cutting machine. The ones that we have have seen a better day. And so you get your whole project done, you go to cut it, and it makes a mess of things. So we're trying to update those two items. If I looked at, we have another page that kind of pulls out in that packet specifically the different areas, kindergarten, first grade, and so forth. There's a big part of that line does come from kindergarten. There's, first of all, six teachers at the other two grade levels, grade 1 and 2, and there are 8 at kindergarten. So there's that, and just as kind of normal, 2 more teachers ordering things that are needed for the classroom. We do quite a few things now with hands-on things with the kindergartners, where we need those manipulatives and so forth that they use, and that really has been something that seems to really made it so the kids understand what's going on, and they're just understanding the concept a little better. So we've been adding, especially when we do anything related to science or social studies, we've been adding some things there. And so when I look at the 3 between kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, I think it's your 3rd page, where it just breaks up the supplies. That's kind of the issue there. With just 2 more teachers and more of these manipulatives that we're trying to add to the program overall. We're all set with that. I'll keep going. Pre-K supplies, that's page 6. They're all right there. The packet that you folks got from Crystal in the special office. They actually decreased what they had asked for by $614.76. Guidance, there was a decrease there. Essentially, our guidance person is now a social worker. That's been changed a few years ago. And the decrease there is Dr. Barnes finished her program. So yeah, it was great. And then guidance supplies, when we brought the social worker on board, we had essentially retooled for what that person would need. And so there was a little increase a year ago, and now we've decreased it substantially as far as the overall what they had asked for. And under the library, it's always kind of a separate budget that goes into every school. And there was only one line of their budget that was an increase, and that was under books and periodicals. We're dealing with a lot of damaged books. The transient piece, if I can explain that, is just simply we have students moving in and out quite often, and a lot of times those books are now not something we can recapture and get back into the library and so forth. Sometimes they surprise us and it comes in even months later, but there's a pretty big hit on that, and they're continually adding books for beginning readers in particular. So I can't say enough good things about the library folks. They are on their game. They're always reviewing what we have, both available on the shelf and online.
Any questions? Done.
We talked about teachers and stuff?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because there's a big jump in the teacher salary, and I presume something down from the...
Nope, I can tell you exactly what's in there that's the change, okay? There's a few changes. First is it's contractual. Second is, remember, we didn't have the RTI person in last year's budget. We added it in this year because we had money to pay for it this year. Another piece that's there that's changed, and we had actually touched on it when we were talking just a minute ago with Phoebe about finding money for professional development. What we've done is we have Title II grant. Okay, the Title II grant, one of the things we use the money for is class size reduction. Okay, what we've done is moved one of those teachers that was in class size reduction. We moved half of their salary and half of their benefits into the regular budget, so we can then use that rest of that money for professional development that we need to have. So it's not, so you really have a full position added in there, and then a half a position of a teacher in there. That's why it's gone up so much. So 1.5 teachers on top of what the budget was last year, including any raises that they get according to the contract.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
It's also, if you notice, the ed tech line went up as well. What we're doing is we've added an ed tech 3 and full benefits. What we're going to do this year is we're going to be piloting at the primary school where I have a Title I person coach part-time, teach part-time, but that extra ed tech that's coming in will be working with kids full-time. So they're actually gaining really a half a person to teach, but we're piloting by having that half a person that's already a teacher coach. We're also doing that at the elementary school, okay? We're going to have someone come over and coach math at the primary school, but that person works at the elementary school. So when they're gone, in the elementary budget, you'll see an Ed Tech 3 added into their budget, doing the same thing so they can have an extra half a person to work with kids, but also that it frees up a person half-time to coach. So we're going to pilot that this year so that the teachers can get some coaching so that we can all be on the same path together.
I just want to clarify on what you said compared to what I thought you might have said and what I remember from last year. So we added an RTI teacher in here, or RTI, but wasn't there also a kindergarten that we added in that came out of contingency?
Nope, we actually put it in the actual budget
Okay,
last
so
year.
we did get it in the
We
budget.
got it in the budget last year, and we're not cutting any of those positions,
Okay.
so that's the same.
I thought we did it with contingency.
Well, we actually talked at the meeting, should we do it with contingency, or would it be better to put it in the regular budget, and it was decided to put that in the regular
Okay.
budget.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Great, thank you.
Maybe just,
Last minute.
Okay, you didn't make it. Yeah.
I'll ask next time then. So I see the pre-K. You're expecting to jump almost 20 students.
Yeah, each year on that, I think it would be what, your second page? We have 96 slots, and what's been happening is, when we look at just the growth rate, kids in the area that we know about, in birth rate, essentially, looking at that, so the ones that we know, and then this year we've been kind of foretold that we have the CDS students coming in to the tune of about 22 students that'll be in, so we'll see where we end up with that. So I think if we just say, like last year we put 96, we ended up with 78. Sometimes we get folks asking from other communities that aren't able to, either don't have pre-K or would like to be part of ours, that might come in and go through the central office to have that discussion. However, the 96 is the slots that we have between the two.
And you have staffing for that?
Yep, we have all that in place between the two district pre-K teachers, and they have an ed tech each, and then Head Start also is there, essentially a separate organization.
That's a whole lot of 4-year-olds.
That's a lot, yeah.
Okay.
Always, that little piece of it is always somewhat of a prediction, but we do have the 96 slots, and we shoot for that. And certainly the word is getting out that they're enjoying the pre-K experience with the folks we have, so we're kind of expecting some growth. And it's Bob.
For the pre-K, there's 2 sessions per teacher, so it's only like 16 kids per class.
Right. Yep, I got that in my notes down here, thank you. Yeah, so it's Monday, Thursday group, and so it's up to 16 per, and then when they do the Tuesday, Friday group, a different group of 16, up to 16.
Anyone else?
Yeah, that fell for that. All right, thank you.
Spruce Mt Elementary, Pat.
All right, so if you look at the first page on my packet, in the teacher line, salaries are decreasing because currently we have 6 fifth grade teachers. We have a large class, 123 that's moving up to the middle school. So one of our fifth grade teachers will be following them up, so there's a decrease there. Professional development and travel, we've increased. We do have the Tier 3, the grant is coming from Tier 3. This is going to be specifically for our math. So this increase is for the other subjects, for reading and writing. The teachers would like to go to increase their knowledge on that. If you look at textbooks, it's really more of our guided reading books. We had a decrease of $1,100. We didn't have to replace. These books are wearing out, but we didn't have to replace or buy as many as we have in the past. social worker line, she finished her master's degree in a STEP, so that's why that increased $2,600. Stipends, since we lost the 21st Century Grant, the kids at the elementary school don't have a lot of opportunity for after-school projects other than the drama program that we have. So I was talking with Mrs. Lindsay, who was very happy to create an art program, an after-school art program to give the kids a second option. Because right now drama's, really for 5th grade. And this will be for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and it'll give them an opportunity to stay after school and do something that they enjoy.
Any questions for Pat? Doug?
Can you break down what's in the instructional supplies line? It's not a big jump, I just want to know for my own learning, what's in that line, instructional supplies?
Yeah.
So it's 25,000?
Yeah. So that one went up, roughly $800. So those are any of the things that the teachers use in the classroom, any of the manipulatives, any of the things that they use to teach the kids, whether it's, different hands-on things for math or anything that they use to teach reading and writing, the little books that they use, for writing, anything along those lines. Unified arts would be all the stuff for like gym. Jenny needs new balls, new basketballs, hula hoops, anything like that. Clay, paint, stuff like that. Music, anything he uses to teach music. He's got he's got all those little mallets and stuff that don't always last that long. Guidance, she uses like her social and emotional. She has different cards, different games that she uses to teach kids social things, taking turns, getting along, those kind of things. RTI, we have, in that line, we give kids fidgets. We also have different puzzles and games that kids, when they come in and they're upset, that kind of helps them calm down. We have little balls that the kids sit on, and the kids need to bounce to keep their focus. Agendas are for 4th and 5th grade, so that they can come in and the teacher will have the schedule on the board of homework, and they can fill in the agenda so parents know what's going on in school. And furniture, we're down to like 3 desks at the elementary, just over attrition. They're starting to wear out. The janitors have done a great job keeping the chairs together, but they're just starting to wear out. We've had a lot of kids move in. We used to have a lot of chairs, but they took them and dispersed them through the district, so we're trying to replace some tables, some chairs, and some desks.
Great, thanks.
Anyone else? Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
$504, yeah.
I have to put the microphone down whenever I get up here. All right, so I passed my sheet out already. There are only a few lines, but because my lines are distributed throughout the 4 schools, we might be flipping some pages here. So on the sheet, it outlines there are really 3 areas of the budget. One is the 3/5 position that Candy already mentioned, or Doug already mentioned. So those are found on page 2, 3, 3, and 4 by building. We've already looked at them. I just did some quick figuring, and Doug did answer the question. Looks like the salary is like just over 45,000, 45,62 was 96 cents right about there. And I hadn't added up the benefits before it. All the rest of that looks like it's a family plan. It's a family plan benefit, so that's why it's a subscription. Yep. And as Scott said, there's a 3/5 position. Any other questions about that part before I go on to the other sections? Seeing none. Contracted services, there is a dollar difference in this one. This is the computer program that we use to track referrals, paperwork, all of the minutes from the meetings and the actual 504 plans themselves, and archive all of those over time. This is the same system that we use on the special ed end of things, and we've used this system for years, ever since they came out with the 504 version. It's called Acuity. The difference is I got a quote, and there's a $500 increase in the contract quote for next year. We had a locked-in price for the last 3 years, and they were offering some special deal by doing a 3-year thing. And when you used Acuity and the main care billing and the special ed part of it, they gave you a $500 discount, and that's where it was. And they are no longer offering that discount. So I'm pressuring them to give us some kind of discount, but right now the quote has come in at $2,000 for the year. So I had to adjust the lines for that. You'll see that according to each building. So we took the contract amount and broke that out over each of the buildings. So you'll see that under 504 compliance contracted services. And I listed the page numbers on there where you'll find each one of those by building. Any questions on the contract? Okay. And the last one is 504 compliance supplies. I actually wrote no change, but I see that one of the lines did go down by $50, so there's actually a $50 decrease over the previous year's budget. And those are to purchase supplies relative to the 504 compliance. And it includes like stamped envelopes, getting items to parents. We're using email more and more as parents give us permission to do that. But we do have mailings, folders, labels, student-specific items like helping them with organization, like folders and binders and those kinds of things. So, and I itemized those again, show up in each building, and those are on pages 5, 6, 7, and 8. Any questions? Yes, sir. No question.
Okay, here's a question. What's big, low, thin, and has a round bottom, a tail, 2 fruit thingies hanging from its tail, leaves on the tail, 3 heads, and of course, a beach-like hair, or from it's like a palm tree form. It goes this.
Are you describing Mr. Harrington?
It's a cute form.
Whatever it is, it's not in the budget.
Not budget for that.
That's what we're gonna have a science thing.
Any questions on any of the 504 budget?
Board member questions.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. I'll put this up for whoever's not.
Special services, yeah.
So I just want to start with, remember, I'm new. So the first big difference, I think that I pointed out, I put it as number 1, is that there's an additional $86,400 on page 24. You'll see it says main care seed in all capital letters. That is non-negotiable. We have to put that in there. We had our audit, and our auditor caught on that we had not put that in there. It is when main care pays a school-based claim, the federal government pays 68%, 62%. We have to pay 38%. It's matched by state. but we have to pay it, so that has to go in there, and Crystal could probably speak more to that, but that's why that's in there. Any questions about that?
We do know there's some districts that haven't put that in, and come time, they've lost a lot of money because they didn't have that in there. Crystal?
I do believe it was probably in the
Yes.
past year's budget throughout like the tuition, there was a lot of tuition and fees. The auditor wanted it clear in a line that said main care seed, so that we knew that money isn't in the budget somewhere, it's right there. Because what happens is, when we get our ED 279, like this time of year, and we budget for whatever it is that they give us, over the whole next budget year that we're in, they keep taking money from it for the seed. So we just need to make sure that when they're taking out, we've accounted for that somewhere, because we've counted that revenue as a whole.
Any questions about that one? From the board, thank you.
So just to understand you, Crystal, you're saying it was in last year's budget, but it was kind of hidden
Yes,
places, and there's no definitive line where we can kind of look at and see it?
correct, it's like woven
Like
into
tuition
tuition.
private, tuition
Yeah.
public, no certain dollar amount. And so we looked back at the old ED 279s and noticed that, one year it was 65,000 taken out, another year was 90,000 taken out. You don't know because it's a whole year behind. So it's just a guess, but we wanted the auditor to see that we actually had a line specific for that, and that way they were covered.
Okay, thank you.
So the second one I added was the psych services. So that's on page 25. There's an increase of 16,000. 14,000 is for K-8 and 2,000 for 9-12, and that's because there's more of a need for those psychological services to do evaluations and other such consultations at the K-8 level. And we didn't, at least this year, have as much as a need, so the increase was much smaller in comparison, because we're trying to match where the need is. Any questions? So the next one is speech, and it's relatively for the same kind of reasons, that there's a bigger need at the K-8 level that we're not meeting currently right now. And so there's $6,000 slated for K-8 and $2,000 for 9 through 12, and that's on page 25 as well. So it's an increased total of $8,500. Yeah, Pam? Or
I know we've had a changeover in our psychologist. I don't know if you know. Could that be the cost of those referrals in that line as well gone up?
we had a change in our
For the
psych
different-
services,
Yeah,
as in,
for testing, and somebody retired and we have somebody else doing those. So could it be an increase because it's a new one?
If I can.
yeah, go ahead.
Last year, the psychologist who's coming in from Eastern Maine Psychological Testing and Counseling, it's the same one coming in this year. So
Okay, I thought the retirement was last year.
I think it was the previous year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the same fee. I didn't know if the fees had gone up, that would make that increase
The fees
more.
are overall consistent with what we have been paying, but there's been increased demand through referrals and more testing for us.
Yes.
For more time.
More referrals, more assessments needed. And we're trying to take a hard look at those and not test when we don't need to test, but we're missing timelines. So, the timelines, so the increase is there. But,
Just trying to help.
yeah, no, I appreciate that. I needed that understanding. And the next line is K-8 Behavior. It's a self-contained program. It's on page 21. So we didn't add a position, but the numbers there look a little different, and I actually did put a dollar amount because I would have had to do lots of math to figure that out. We didn't add a position, but we separated the 7-12 behavior program into 6-8 and 9-12. So that meant salary and benefits also got moved around to reflect that. Any questions about that? So the next one is, sorry, go ahead.
So are you saying that there won't be an increase, or you're not sure what the increase will be yet?
I think the numbers will look different, it's just because we moved them from, if I can say, they were divided into two pails and we put them into one pail.
Okay.
So the other pail will look like it's got less and this one's gonna look like it's got more, just because we moved those over. Any other questions? So number 5, I have a middle school resource teacher that we added, a full-time resource teacher. That's on page 21. So the lines are obviously in salaries and benefits for teachers. And all in all, that came out to $62,285 with salary and benefits. And that's again to reflect the numbers, the increase. That will allow us to have a resource teacher at all the grade levels in the middle school, grade 6, grade 7, and 8. Yeah.
The person doing the behavior program at the middle school now.
Yeah.
Was that a resource teacher before?
Yes.
So moving that person created the need for.
Yes, and the increase in number of students is the other need.
That position before was half-time middle school, half-time high school. That resource position that got moved to the behavior position.
Okay.
So now there's a need for a full-time resource.
Just middle school, yeah. And the next one is for contracted special ed under self-contained. It's on page 19, 20, 21, and 22. There's a line in each of those schools that says special ed, self-contained, and it's contracted. And those are for what we call BCDAs most of the time. So it's board certified behavior analysts who come in and work directly with the teacher, create behavior plans, and that's just key. And the need is just, it's there. So we divided an increase of $10,000 between the 4 schools so that there was an additional $2,000 at the primary school and at the elementary school, $3,000 at the middle school where we see currently a higher need, and then $3,000 at the high school. No questions? Okay. And then the next one is the social worker. I think I listed research teacher, but that's listed. So the social worker is, even though they're a social worker, they're listed in the teacher contracts. So that's on page 18. And all in all, when things were flushed out, there was 50% put into the K2 budget and 50% in 3.5. And so it turns out that the primary school goes down 13,000, but the elementary goes up 35, but that's because that whole section is all teachers, not just the social worker.
And that's the social worker you approved during this school year.
That we just hired, yep. And then the last one is, I ended on a good one. So the last one is under special ed administration. It's on page 23. And there's a decrease in 2 spots you'll see for public school, their day treatment programs is what they are. It's a public school day treatment. And we gave up 2 slots. We still have slots that we're paying for through local entitlement, but we gave up 2 slots, which saved us $50,000.
What's the impact on the services provided? We don't have students in those slots?
So we have students that are waiting for placements, but we found that the students we have are not matching the capacity and the profile of students that this particular day treatment can take. So we were paying for a while on those, and it just made sense to not pay for them when we aren't going to use them, right?
I guess I want to clarify, going back to the main care seat if I can, because I thought I heard Crystal say part of the offset for that was these 2 lines, the tuition public. And sounds like you're saying it's something different.
No, it is tuition, public and private. So anytime there's a main care thing in day treatment, whether it's public or private, most are private. It's rare to have public day treatment that
Well,
several schools are in.
I'm just trying to understand because
Sure.
you said we added 86,000, but it came from somewhere else, or was there before.
And I'm
So,
not
so
sure.
was it really there before? Or because it sounds like you're saying there's a change that made these two 25s drop. So,
There was a number there, but I couldn't, I was too new to know, where that number was and how much was part of the seed or how much what was covered.
okay. Because at first I thought, well, okay, you take out the 50 or 60,000 back on the previous page is part of the offset of that 86, but now I'm wondering if it's composed of two different things, so.
It is.
Can I just add a little
If she says so.
Absolutely.
We had attempted to address the seed thing by adding in, and it was an attempt, but we tried, but it didn't work out. We tried to add lines in, I think it was 2 budgets ago, where we said, like, OT, and I don't remember if it said seed, but it was whatever it was for that purpose anyway. So we broke it up by OT, PT, speech, and then we built it into the tuition lines, because we knew we were gonna have to pay it, and so it was coming out of those lines. But what happens is you get your seed, and it's just a dollar amount. So then we were randomly taking a guess, like, how much of that is OT, how much is PT? So that's why it should really all be in one line, because you're just randomly attributing numbers in budget, and that's not the way you want to do it. So we had them there, and they were dispersed throughout various lines, but this is a cleaner way to do it, because we get one bill.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, is there 30,000 net positive, or is it truly an 86,000 net positive associated with the seed? And because of the scenario, there's a 50,000 reduction due to just the expected reduction in the tuition need. So,
That's separate.
okay.
This 80 that's in there, this 6,400 was in their budget for other purposes, but it's part of the seed. But the 80,000 is gonna offset what they take from our ED 279 revenue. It's a separate deduction.
Okay.
So it was just coming out of revenue before. And then we were trying to build the money in to not have that hit.
Okay, I just want to understand that I'm going to treat it as two different distinct things,
Yeah.
by the sounds of it.
Yes.
It is complicated.
Oh, I can give you some.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, do they have a mic back there? Because I'm having a hard time hearing them.
No, they don't want
No.
to. But they don't know.
You don't have a lawyer. Phoebe and then Lynn.
Okay. I might only have one question, depending on how you answer the first one. Okay, so, just trying to be honest here. Okay, so for the 2 slots that are potentially being removed off, can you speak more about what those slots entail? Because we do have new students that are coming in, the numbers are reflecting. So
Correct.
I hesitate, personally, I hesitate, and knowing the special needs program from, a parent's perspective, as well as working with teachers and things like that, that at any time, a student can move into a district and potentially need that, and if that budget's not there,
Correct.
but if I'm misunderstanding what kind of slot this is for, then,
You're not misunderstanding, but the slots are for this one particular place. So we're finding that it's not quite a match, and there are other places, and we have money in local entitlement to cover that. And we're also trying in the bigger picture to keep our children in-house when we can, if we can. But you're right, at any moment, and it has happened, that children move in with high needs who are already in out-of-district placements, and we have to match that when they come in.
now, this brings my second question, I'm so sorry.
Don't apologize.
But with these other locations, are we certain that they're going to be able to take the other students? Do we have their projection for numbers? Because if we put all our eggs in 2 different baskets when we needed the third basket, I just don't want any students being left behind.
Correct. You are describing a problem that is real. So there are, in our region, we have difficulty as special ed directors in placing students in outside programs because the programs are often 45 minutes minimally away. So they're far travel, and lots of them are filled. Most of them are filled. Or their criteria doesn't meet the criteria of the student. So for instance, if you have a student who's in grade 3, but the program it does have a slot open, but it takes students grade 5 and up. So there's a great difficulty regionally, actually statewide, to find places for students that have those high needs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm new too.
Oh.
So it took me about 40 minutes to figure out where I was supposed to be in the book.
Oh.
And so now all of a sudden I figured it out and I have lots of questions. Can you just tell me, out of all of this, how many of these are in additional positions that would begin next year?
So that would begin next year. The full-time middle school teacher is the position that's put in there. That's the only one.
Okay, so the contracted services, that's on.
It's not necessarily a new position, it's just an increase. So we already have services in place right now. We just need, so I might have one person I can think of right now. We have 1 day a week that they're contracted for. We could use them 2 days a week.
Okay.
We could use them just more, we need more service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions?
So basically, the special ed budget is going up about $250,000.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyone else? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Before we adjourn here, any questions that anyone might have that would help somebody to bring in for the next meeting? Did we cycle through everybody already?
Like TJ and.
They're the next meeting.
They're the next meeting. And feel free, if people have questions while they're looking over it at home, email, call. It doesn't mean you can't bring it up at the next meeting, but if you have questions or something you don't quite understand, call Crystal or I and we'll try to explain it the best we can.
Don't.
Well, I mean, following on Dale's question here a minute ago, and I know we haven't gone through the whole thing yet, but I just want to give a quick perspective of what I see when I look at this. And I like looking at the numbers. When you look at year over year, we're looking at a 3% change. In that, the special ed line is about 1% of that. Within that, about a third of that probably is this 86,000 I was asking. That's why I was trying to understand where that comes into play. It's actually a smaller number than what we talked about last year at this point when I looked through that. If you look at the regular instruction part of all of this, there's about a 3.6% change there, which means everything else which special ed falls inside of it is a 2.5% change year over year. So, there's a lot of movements. That's the big thing I always question. You've heard me ask before when we say, well, we took it out of this bucket and moved it to this bucket. Half the time we only see the one bucket and not the other one. So I'm always trying to keep track of that stuff. But from my perspective, those numbers aren't scaring me per se. And I just want to make sure we think about it when we look at all this and these numbers. And yeah, we can get in the nitty gritty and talk about, there's one line of yours, Tina, changed by $50. I wasn't worried about that, but I'm okay with that. Um,
stressful.
So, I mean, I just want to keep that in perspective as we keep going through this, because for everyone, if you didn't get your email about an hour before we got to the meeting, I did send around my little versions of this, and I know Crystal's gonna come after me because the way my regular instruction and student and staff support, they add up to the same thing, but for some reason, the way my thing pulls it apart, it comes out different than the summary you give on that single page there at the back, but all the other sections work out the same. And I just like looking at by building and grouping all things a little easier together. So all of you should have that in PDFs when you get home if you haven't already opened your email. I just sent that around. Because within there are things where I look at how much will be spent this year, things that are less than like 25% spent, things that are over 75%, things that line items have changed by $1,500, $5,000. I mean, different ways of looking, dicing, and slicing everything. Because you might see something in one view that you may not have seen as you flip into the book. So it's how I like looking at things, and I like looking at a lot of data. So I think there's about 10 or 12 files on there. So enjoy.
To summarize, we look at the big picture. Yeah. Kevin?
Revenue, do we have any idea of when we're looking at receiving that from the state?
We've got some preliminary information today, but Crystal and I will have to sit down and figure out what that actually all means. We did get more money from the state than we did last year. You know that much, but like I said, we need to sit down and see what the figures actually line up. We actually have to take last year's 279 and this year's 279 to make sure the data that we gave is correct. And then we have to sit down and figure out based on what each town pays for what their mill rate is, what the state mill rate is. But you guys will all have a clear picture of that by the end of the month. Before the numbers ever go out for the warrants and so forth, you guys will know exactly what the overall cost is.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we will get more because our special ed reimbursement, possibly because of our numbers
There's a
going
piece
up.
of that. We have to look at the numbers. We're also supposed to get more because we belong to the Western Maine Regional programs now. A lot of things have been promised, but until you actually let the numbers trickle down, it could just be they switched it. So if you want to take a look to see exactly what that is. So.
Doug?
I think this is probably a question for next time, but I just want to prime Jim and Ken for it. You know, I see the big increase in transportation and a little bit of decrease in the maintenance bucket, and I think that's because of the position switch, but I just want to know what that 118,000 is, you know, because year over year, you know, for the past 4 years, it's been increased over 12%, and, you know, just from last year it was 9% too, so just want to see that explained next time. Great.
Anyone else? No? Okay. Our next meeting is February 13th. It will be a regular meeting and a budget overview meeting. Policy meeting at 5, and there's a list of accounts that we'll be going over. And then there's February 27th meeting, again, also a regular and a budget and finance meeting on that. Policy. And a motion to adjourn. So moved. All right, second by Lena. All those in favor? Unanimous.